Hey, it's Jill Riley from the Current's morning show. And I have a special guest on the line, and I'm very excited about this because we are playing a brand new song from the Shins called The Great Divide. And I've got James Mercer with me right now to check in. James, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're we're decent here in the Twin
Yeah.
Cities. How how are things in Portland?
Um, Things are pretty chill. I don't know. There's not too much going on. Everybody's in lockdown as everywhere. There's been the protests and so on, and that's been sort of the one bit of interesting news, but those seem to have slowed down a little bit. So yeah,
Yeah,
we're kind of chill.
that's kind of the way that it's felt around here in
Yeah,
Minneapolis and St. Paul.
sure. You guys were having the same sort of activity. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and right now we're kind of at that point where time is passing by in a very strange way, but then
Mm.
something big will be coming. It's like, wait a minute, where did all the time go? But like election day, I mean, we're so close to
Mm.
election day that
Yeah.
it's almost unbelievable. Have you been, talking to your fans or talking to folks about getting out and making sure that they vote?
I haven't really. I haven't been very active on social media at all lately. So sorry.
No, it's okay.
I
And
have,
actually, I think that's a pretty healthy way to be, to tell you the truth right now.
yeah, there's I think a lack of excitement about this election. I feel in my life, but so maybe if I had this real feeling of absolute dedication, I would be doing that. But it's like I would feel hypocritical if I were to tell people you got to get out there and do this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see how it turns out because, we probably won't know the
Right.
results right away. And so it'll
Yeah.
be kind of interesting to see how this pans out. I mean, I have never voted in a presidential election during a pandemic before. So again, it's
Oh, really? Because
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, wasn't around for that. Gosh, what year was it of
like
the
17 or
flu?
something.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not that old, but yeah, it's just between the pandemic and election season, and people really just being holed up and not able to get out to see their favorite bands, and for you,
Oh,
it was really cool to see that you've got a new song with the Shins, and I was doing my show one morning, and I was kind of just looking down the new songs I had coming up, and I was like, oh, a new song from the Shins. That's a surprise. Okay, so that new song is called The Great Divide.
hmm.
Can you just tell us about the new song and when did you write it? When did it get recorded?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that's interesting about it is it's not the first time I've ever collaborated with somebody on a Shins song, but it's the first time we're having one released. So that was kind of a big deal. I've been doing this for 20 years and I've always written the basic song, the coffee shop version of the song, pre-production and everything just by myself. So in this situation, John Sortland, who is our drummer, he had this really cool thing he had done on his iPhone. And he was playing it in the bus on tour. And I just kind of started humming and singing to it. And it was just really fertile ground for me to riff on. And quickly I was just like, I got to have that, man. Let's do this. Let's get together after the tour and work on this thing.
So it's
So
a
that was the
song that's
beginning.
been, yeah. So it's a song that's been kind of bouncing around for a
Yeah.
while.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
and did you kind of get the extra push to get into the studio to record it just because of touring industry being shut down and having some time to do it?
Yeah, there's all of those factors, I
Yeah.
think. And you start to get this itch that you want to be creative, you want to work. It's also a social thing. I love hanging out with Yuki Matthews and John Sortland and Mark Watrous and Patty King, these guys in my band. So, it's just a lot of fun working, and this was just a great song right off the bat. It just was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So again, the song is called "The Great Divide" from the Shins. It's the brand new song. You guys also released a music video for it.
Yeah.
Who did you work with on the video?
John Sortland was the sort of captain of that whole thing. And he used a digital engineering firm to do it. I can't remember the name right now, but a really nice guy who was at the helm there.
Yeah, it's a really neat video. It's very large, very grand. It's
Yeah.
almost like you're being taken for this ride through the universe or like time and space in some way.
Yeah, we kind of felt the song was pretty epic, so that was the goal, is to match it with a video that really gave you the feeling you were traveling somewhere.
Well, James Mercer with me from the Shins. We're talking about the new song, The Great Divide. I guess, Shins fans, you probably want to know, is this new single an indication of a new record coming, or is this kind of a
Right.
standalone right now?
For the time being, it's a standalone thing. I've got backlogs of songs. Some are actually recorded, and I've got a bunch of ideas. Yuki Matthews has a really cool song idea. That's another one of these things that I riffed on, and I'm real excited about. So if we were to be able to get together in the studio, we could really hammer something out. But I think for now, we're pretty happy with this song, and maybe the next thing we work on is Yuki's deal.
Yeah, it's really a great song. It's very catchy. The Great Divide from the Shins. And I know that you were kind of playing around with this song in the way that you did with the last record, Heartworms. So Heartworms came out in 2017, and then you did what you called a flipped version. So
Yeah.
what did you mean
Yeah.
by that flipped version for anyone who
Yeah.
doesn't know about the worm's heart?
Right. Well, the idea there is that we take the song and just reapproach the production, with the idea being, let's just do it very differently. Let's find new angles on the song in a hope of finding something that sounds just as good. Even you might debate which one you like best. So we put a lot of work into the flipped versions, but sometimes they're real live sounding, and it's just whatever the song feels. But yeah, I think it's an interesting idea, and I think it reveals the value of a song, regardless of the production aesthetic.
James, I mean, is that something that you've done? I mean, in the past, I mean, you even talked about, being the, principal songwriter, and you kind of come up with that coffee shop version. But
Yeah.
that version, I mean, a song really can develop into something else from there.
Yes, it's amazing. I mean, there are a lot of songs that you hear on the radio, and the production is really high end and very elaborate and sophisticated. And then you can hear somebody play it with just an acoustic guitar, and you really realize, like, that's a bloody good song just on its own. And that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, it's incredible when, like a box set will come out and then you hear demo versions of songs that you know really well. And it's like, oh my gosh, how did it start? It's so hard for me to think about a song being so bare bones and becoming this big production. But it's a really interesting concept to kind of flip that around, to take, maybe a more upbeat or faster or, hookier song and then make a ballad out of it. Have you been in this situation where you've done that and then kind of wished that you had gone with the flipped song?
Oh, yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, the Heartworms flipped. I think there's a couple songs on there that I prefer the flipped version. It's just hard to know, you do what you can. You're in a certain mood, and you have preconceived notions because of the way you wrote the song. You just kind of go with it. And I mean, I've said, after the flipped version of Heartworms came out, I was like, we should do the flipped version of all the songs before we decide on the list, the song order, because we might want to pick and choose from each pile. Yeah, I think it's a really cool thing to do. It's a great study in production work and songwriting.
James, at the beginning of, really going back to last March and April, I was checking in with a bunch of musicians and just kind of asking people, how are you doing? What's this time been like? And there are a couple of people that I've followed up with, but I mean, I didn't have that initial conversation with you back in March, but
yeah,
how are you doing right now? I mean, I know that you've got a family, you've got plenty to keep busy. You're being creative, but what's kind of your go-to kind of coping
activity?
mechanism? Yeah. I mean, and coping mechanism even for this time.
Right. It is staying busy. I try and help out as much as I can with the kids' schooling, as they sit there in front of the computer. We've got a 6-year-old, and that's just,
Okay.
it's like herding cats, trying to keep her in line. And then just different projects around the house. I mean, really domestic things. I'm building a tree house, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, so when I get into a situation that I don't know exactly what I'm doing with the tree house, then I come over and I will work on songs and do that for a bit until I'm bored of it and go help out with the kids and just stuff like that. I'm just trying to keep busy, and because you do get stir crazy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would never wish another global pandemic on this earth. But my gosh, if it hasn't been one thing, one thing that I've taken away is just learning how to be more present and just trying to spend more time at home. And I've been doing the distance learning. My son is doing pre-K, distance learning, and it's like, how are we going to do this? And so it's but it's really taught me a lot about patience and appreciating spending more time at home. But I really do look forward to the day where I can go out at night and see bands that are touring through town. And that's something
and
that
hug
really
your
miss,
friends.
Yeah. And hugging my friends, seeing my friends, being able to talk to people face to face. I really miss that. And I think something that I know that when I've talked to listeners during my show is that, people are so hungry for live music again. And the whole, awareness of like Save Our Stages going on right now. And
yes,
and
we've been doing work with them. And
so I wonder if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, I don't know much about the dynamics of the organization, but we've just really been motivated to try and help them. We've been selling masks to send all the money to those guys. And I mean, these venues are such a huge part of my life. I grew up in these places, and I'm like getting actually a little emotional.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. Yeah.
It's just important. And they are really struggling. And I think that there are national treasures out there that people, so many people actually do know the value of it, but we've got to do our best to try and help them through this. Give us a year, and man, they're going to go gangbusters when we can get back to normal.
Yeah, I just think about a building and a venue as iconic as First Avenue. And I'm so proud when I'm able to leave the Twin Cities and tell people about shows I've seen at First Avenue. And it's one of the things that I love talking up to people that aren't from the Twin Cities. And I think of, what if First Avenue wouldn't survive? And First Avenue has been through its troubles, in the decades.
Yeah.
It really feels, I have this real fear right now. And I wonder, I mean, are there venues in Portland right now that, people are kind of getting nervous about at this point?
Sure. There, at least on my side of the thing, I'm worried about a lot of the places that we've played here. The Doug Fir is a great little venue that would be really disastrous if it couldn't survive this. There are so many. So, yeah, I think it's an important thing to be concerned about.
Yeah, for sure. And it could be a year from now. We just don't know. And that's the thing.
Right.
I can be a bit of a control freak, so I always want to know the plan. But we just don't know the plan yet. And so, we just got to wait it out. So, and that's great to hear that. And you guys said you're selling masks and giving the proceeds.
Yeah, we're selling masks.
Okay.
I've got a guitar that I'm going to donate to the thing and get some people to sign it and just do what we can to help them out.
Yeah, it's all we can do. It's all you can do.
Yeah. James
Mercer of the Shins. Well, thank you for taking the time to check in with the current, and we'll just keep on keeping on. And thanks for. That's the thing is, like, anybody releasing music right now, believe me, your fans are so grateful for that, and we're really grateful for it too here at the Current, that we can continue to share new music with the audience. So thank you for doing that. I think it's just really important for people right now.
I feel very grateful and thankful too. Thank you very much for doing this interview with me, Jill.
Of course. All right, James, we'll check in hopefully down the line. So take care, okay?
Sounds good.